Stampers, welcome to Learning with Friends. I am Pat Fairless from Fairless Stamp and Flair, and today we are going to do a technique called Black Magic. If you like to color, you're going to love this technique. If you don't like to color, it might not be for you because it does involve coloring with colored pencils. So I am going to get started and we will flip the camera over. Waste no time and get right to it. So what you need for this particular Black Magic technique is you need a solid stamp or a solid image stamp. And what I mean by that is something that's not a line image. So this would be considered a solid, to me, a solid image. It is the distinctive stamp and it's got some shading, but that works okay. This would not work with a line image stamp, which I don't have any out here because I'm not using those. So I went through my inventory and found I don't actually have very many solid image stamps anymore. Most of them are line images. So these that I'm going to use, the one that I'm going to use this one today called Textured Floral. It is in the current annual catalog. Who knows if it'll be back? I don't know. We never know until we actually see the last chance list, right? And that doesn't come out until April. I did see the catalog. It is not in the catalog, but that doesn't mean it won't become an online exclusive, because some things may not be in the new catalog, but they might go to online exclusive. So I don't know. But we're going to use this particular flower here. And for this stamp set, in addition to, or for this technique, in addition to a solid image stamp, what we need, actually, I'm going to demonstrate on this one because there is a lot of coloring. And if I do this larger one, which I did use on the card, you're going to be watching me color for a while. So I'm going to demonstrate this smaller one. You need some dark cardstock. You can use basic black. I'm going to use Night of Navy for this card. You could also use a dark brown. One of my cards, I used Blackberry Bliss. So I do have 3 cards to show you, including the one that we're just going to make a piece of for this. But the first step is take your dark cardstock, your solid image stamp, and you need white craft ink. So I am going to ink my pad because you do want to make sure you get good coverage. And this craft ink, I sometimes have trouble getting a good image. So I just want to make sure it's nice and juicy. So I thought I'll just re-ink it and show you how I re-ink stamp pads. I know there's things out there that say, oh, just put a couple drops here and there. This particular craft ink is quite thick. And this is a new refill and it's still thick. I thought maybe mine had just dried out and it was getting low. So I did buy another one. But now the best way to spread it around, whether you use drops of ink or lines like I usually do, is to take a spoon and just kind of spread it around. And that works it down into the pad and kind of evens it out so you get a better, more even image. So that's just an extra hint for today, how to re-ink your stamp pads. So I'm going to take my solid image and I am going to stamp it on this Night of Navy cardstock. I'm going to pull in my Pierce mat, Stampin' Pierce mat, because this is a photopolymer stamp. So this will give me a little bit better image. And I want to make sure I ink it up pretty well. Like I said, this is kind of thicker, at least mine is. And anytime I've used craft, it's always been this way. And just look at the back to make sure it's well inked. And then hold it for a few seconds. Press fairly firmly. And then see if you've got a good image. And I'll bring this up to show you. This one is pretty good. You can see, because this is a distinctive stamp, that there is the shading in there. So it's not totally solid, but it'll work for this technique. So let me close up my ink pad, and I'm going to put this back on my cleaning pad, which is damp. Already got ink on my fingers. So let me see if I can wipe that off. Leave it to me to get ink all over myself. We're not stampers if we don't get inky, right? So now we want to make sure that this is dry. So you can set it aside to dry. Craft ink takes a little bit longer than our classic inks. So I'm just going to pull in my heat tool and make sure it's dry rather than sit and wait for it. With the heat tool, it dries pretty quickly. And you can test it. You can test it with your finger. If your finger comes away non-inky, then you're all set to go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to color this image with colored pencils. And because I only have my watercolor pencils, that's what I'm going to use. I was kind of uncertain if they would work with this technique, but they seem to work fine. What you want to do, my flower, I'm going to make my flower with 3 colors. Now there are 2 assortments of watercolor pencils, assortment 2 and assortment 1. And I'm using some from each. And I just picked a couple of the pinks. So I have Flirty Flamingo. This one is actually, because my set's a little bit old, it's Rich Razzleberry, which is no longer in the assortment. Rich Razzleberry was part of assortment number 1. It's been reconfigured, but this is what I have, so it's what I'm using, and you should always do the same. Use what you have. And Cherry Cobbler. The one hint I'm going to give you is start with your lightest color and work to your darkest, because what really makes this pop is the shading that you do on your flower. And if we were doing leaves, and I did some leaves on the card, so I will show you that. I do have 3 cards to show you. You want your colors, but I think I can demo this with showing you the greens I used. I used Granny Apple Green and Garden Green. And these are quite different in color, right? They're not close to each other. You want your shading to have as much contrast as possible. So within your choices of watercolor pencils, pick things that are fairly different. You wouldn't want like a light pink and a medium pink. You'd want a dark pink and a light pink, because it'll make your shading show more. And that's what you're after, because this does involve shading. And that's kind of why I'm saying, if you like to color, you're going to like this. So I am going to just first color this in with my lightest color, which is, in my case, Flirty Flamingo. Use whatever colors you have. And because it is my lightest one, I'm not going to make it real dark, because I kind of do want it to be lighter. Okay. And you can leave a little bit of white showing. I think if you do that, it does help make it pop a little bit more on the dark cardstock. I kind of learned that as I made a few different images, that I liked it when I left just a little bit of white around the edges as opposed to coloring right up to the edge. And again, this probably makes a difference based on the color of cardstock and the color of pencils you have. I am not using these as watercolor pencils. There's no water involved in this technique. It is just coloring. So I'm going to color this whole flower with this Flirty Flamingo. This is why I'm doing a little flower, because I love to color. If you don't like to color, like I said, this technique is probably not gonna excite you too much. If you hate coloring, then I would say check out one of the other videos with some different techniques. But if you like to color, which I know a lot of people do, it's kind of relaxing. We're just going to kind of fill this in, and I'm going to bring this up. You can see there's still a little bit of, I guess I need to hold it still, a little white showing around the edges, which helps, I think, to make it pop. I'm going to give you another hint, too, about making it pop. I'm going to use this Rich Razzleberry. I could have grabbed Melon Mambo, but Melon Mambo and Flirty Flamingo seem to be a little bit closer in color, so this Rich Razzleberry was darker. And I'm just going to come in from the center, and now I'm going to apply some firmer pressure in my coloring so that I can darken this up, because you want to see that's, and you're not going to color the whole thing. Now you're just going to put where your shading would be. So I'm just going to kind of come in from the center of the flower and push, make strokes out. So pretending the center of my flower is darker than the outside. And I am pressing much harder now to get more color. Don't be afraid to color dark. If I can kind of show you here what happens if I don't. It's really not going to show too much. So let's say I just put normal pressure like I did with the Flirty Flamingo. And then that's what I'm doing here. Really no pressure, and I'll bring it up. You can hardly see that I even colored that, but you can see where I pressed harder that I've got some shading. So that's a hint. When you're doing your shading over the top of your lighter base color, put some oomph into it. Give it a little, not so hard you're going to break your pencil, but you know what I mean. And we're just going to color, go around here. And with most of my images that I colored, I just colored with two colors. I shaded first with the lighter shade, and then, or colored most of it with the lighter shade, and then came back and added some shading with a darker shade. With this one, I took my cherry cobbler as well, and just right around the inside, I really pushed some darker color on there just to help make it a little bit more visual, that you can see the darker shading. Because the shading is what makes this technique. And again, now I'm not going out as far as I did with the Rich Razzleberry. I'm just sticking to pretty much the very center of my flower. Hopefully you can see that. My hand might be in the way. I'm trying to keep it away. I can't hold it up closer to the camera and color because I need the pressure. It doesn't work, but I'm just trying to get it down right at the base of my petal with a little bit darker. And again, it does not require watercolor pencils. It's just that's what I have. So that's what I'm using. If you have regular colored pencils, go ahead and use those. Any colored pencils, I believe, should work just fine. So that's my shading. For the center of my flower, because my cardstock is Night of Navy, I just thought I'd made my pestle here in the center. I'd put some Night of Navy in here. Just so the center of the flower didn't look white. And then what we would do next is take our textured floral die and put this on here, line it up, and then go ahead and die cut it, okay? And once it's die cut, I found these in my stash. I found a little Night of Navy gem called a Milky Dot. I believe they're retired. but any little Night of Navy sequin or whatever you have would work fine. So once it's die cut, put that on there. And then this is, I'll show you my completed card. It's kind of pretty. Let me bring it in close so you can really see the coloring, because the coloring is what we're trying to, the black magic is what we're trying to show here. The one thing I did on here that I didn't show you, let me do that. Take this off, is you can leave it like this and say that's, you know, that's how you like it, that's fine. If you want to add a little bit more highlight, which you saw maybe in mine, take a white gel pen. My white gel pens are getting on the dry side, but just take your flower and go in here and add some little white. You can add little lines on one side of the petal. And this just gives it a little bit more pop, I would say. If you have a gel pen, just to take this gel pen and add that to your flower. You could also add like a dot here and there, maybe on the tip of your flower. Every once in a while, I have to scribble with my gel pen because I think it doesn't like the wax on from the colored pencils either. And it seems like it clogs up, so I have to do a little scribbling once in a while to get my gel pen to go. And I could add some here in the center, even just kind of like a little bit all over, whatever you like. This is totally, it's optional, and it's whatever looks right to you. So let me bring that in closer. And you can see how that white just added a little bit of pop. And I probably have a little bit more white on this one than I have on the one in the card. None's going to turn out the same, right? And I guess I could put my gem on there so when we compare, we're comparing the same thing. So that is Black Magic. And this is the completed card made with textured floral. On the inside, so let me tell you, this stamp set here, love it. It is a sneak peek called Layered Dots. They gave us these as one of our gifts on stage. It was a prize patrol, and we all got one of these. So this, you will find this in the new 25-26 annual catalog. And I used it here on the inside for my first card. Let me show you the other two. The other card I made with the stamp set in the annual catalog called Planted Paradise. Again, I was looking for solid images. So these are about as solid as any I have. So this is what I used. And here's my card. This one I did on basic black. This card layout was cased from one of the ones in the new annual catalog with the rainbow in the back. They had it on white, but I thought, well, I'm going to try the rainbow on black. I kind of like how it turned out. But let me bring the coloring in close. Here you can see where I did the green with the two different shades of green. I used Crushed Curry and Daffodil Delight. Here I used a couple of the pinks. I think it might have been Flirty Flamingo and Rich Razzleberry again, or Cherry Cobbler. Here we've got some Gorgeous Grape and Flirty Flamingo. Obviously, we're a little limited to colors when I use my watercolor pencils because there's only so many, right? But that is that card. On the inside, I turned this into an Easter card because I still have cards I need to make for Easter. So I'm like, well, it's got flowers. It'll be fine. I put the Happy Spring on here. Planted Paradise has no sentiments. So these came from the cute little Storybook Friends, both of them. So that is that card. What did I do to my envelope? Oh, I had some additional strips on there too, so I just covered that, made a rainbow on my flap. So that is my second card. And then the last card I'm going to show you. This is weird. My layout is so different from what I've been used to doing these because I'm still under construction. So I have about a 3 foot by 4 foot space for me and my chair and all my stuff to stand, and things are behind me, things are on the side of me, and it's a challenge. I used painted lavender. Don't know if this one's coming back either. It's not in the catalog, but they did bring the perennial lavender paper back, so I'm thinking it might be an online exclusive, but who knows. But here's this card. So this one I did my Black Magic technique on Blackberry Bliss cardstock. So that was my dark colored cardstock I used. And the colors that I colored this with were Coastal Cabana and Gorgeous Grape were the flowers. I really like how this one turned out. I like how the colors show. This one I did not put any of the Black Magic, or the Black Magic. It's all Black Magic. I didn't put any of the gel pen on this one. The first two I did. And then the stems here are the same greens, the Granny Apple and Garden Green. So that is that card. And again, it was flowers and butterflies. So I'm like, well, that could work for Easter. And I did do another little flower down here from the same stamp set with the same Black Magic technique. So that is card number 3. What do you think? I'd love to hear what you think of that technique. I had never done it before. I found it. I have a book of techniques, which I think I've shown you a couple times in these videos. It's a binder about yay thick, probably a 3-inch binder. And it's a lot of techniques that I downloaded before, kind of not really before the days of internet, but really from a stamping perspective, we had internet at work, but we didn't use internet back then other than we found some stuff and you could download it. But anyway, I had this big thick of all these techniques printed out and I went through it, and that's where I found this Black Magic one. So it's been around a while, but I had never tried it. So I thought, well, let's give it a try. So I think I had fun, but I love to color. So again, if you don't like to color, I'm sorry. This would not be for you if you do not like to color, but it might be fun to try it. Who knows? You might like this kind of coloring because you don't really have to stay in the lines. You're just kind of scribbling, laying down some color on top of crafting, right? So anyway, let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your comments on what you think. Those are always the best part of this, is when people leave comments and let me know if they like it or they don't like it. You know, everybody has their own opinion and their own thing they like to do, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. So thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, please leave those in the comments as well. Again, you don't need much, just some colored pencils of any kind, dark cardstock, craft ink, and a solid image stamp, and you can do this technique. So it doesn't require a lot of stuff. Some things require a lot of stuff, and it's not messy. So enjoy, God bless, and hope you'll give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and we will see you next week with something else. I am hoping, I should tell you, I am pre-recording these because I have to record them on the weekend. I can't do it when the workers are here. My crafting area is a disaster. It is torn up construction stuff everywhere. And I am hoping that by the time this posts, we will actually be back a little bit more to normal. Probably won't be done, but I'm hoping some of this mess behind me, we will be able to clear it up. I've got everything on roll around carts and covered to try to keep the dust and the dirt off. So I hope we'll be done. Maybe I'll show you some pictures once we're finished. If you'd like that, let me know. So again, thank you for watching. God bless. Have a great week. Bye-bye.